What's up, Whisper Nation? We're doing a 12-team Dynasty PPR Superflex. Man, that's a mouthful. And we're doing it right here on Mock Draft Monday in Mock Draft Mania with the Fantasy Whispers. Let's get it.
Oh, yeah.
Right here.
Big Travie, John and Game Time Hicks. It's great to have the OG crew here back in the house. Big props to the Snap Fantasy Football Podcast for helping you hold it down last week, Johnny. But my goodness, it's back. It's fantastic to be back here with you along with the rest of Whisper Nation. We got a full draft room going. Game Time, how are you, my man?
I'm doing great, man. This is really exciting. I got to say, last week, we got a couple new people in the mock draft this week. I'm excited. Drew K. Lou here. I'm telling you, this cat can draft. He killed it last week. He was in our draft last week.
Better than the cat's pajamas?
Yeah, dude. Like this cat. I mean, they're both. Yeah.
This cat is better than the cat's pajamas.
The other thing is that Death by Rona changed his team name or his login name or screen name to the Real Whisper. So he's been taking jabs at Big Travie and stuff, saying that we don't respect his drafts. We'll see how he does, but yeah, that's a big thing there.
The Real Whisper, he mentions. I love it. I love it. And there we have the rest of the team here drafting alongside of us. Whisper Nation, thank you so much for showing up and showing out. And if you have not been able to join one of our live draft rooms, make sure you're following the Fantasy Whispers on Twitter. Johnny drops the live links to our sleeper draft rooms on Twitter. And then while you're at following the social media platforms, why don't you go ahead and hit like and subscribe on our YouTube page, Facebook as well, where we're also live broadcasting our mock drafts as well as the weekly comment dropping your way. And so if you like and subscribe, you'll make sure you get that pinging to your phone and catch that edge as we get closer to the start of the regular season. Big Travie, man, we had the regular NFL draft. We've had our Packers lives, ups and downs, all kinds of which ways. I don't think that's going to slow down anytime soon. How are you feeling about it all?
Oh, man, it's a little overwhelming, but all in a good way. That's, NFL creates great drama. We've got the schedule release. We've had the draft. We've got all sorts of things working. We've got our Dynasty draft that we're all in together coming up. We've got our League of Record draft in Flagstaff, Arizona. We got that house booked. Things are working and moving and shaking, and I just think it's the little bit of a calm before the storm. This summer is going to be a wild one for fantasy football purposes, and I couldn't be more jacked about it.
Oh, my God. And I don't know, I'm feeling as calm as I was a couple weeks ago. I'm starting to get the excitement's here.
It's coming.
Coffee, or it's just the raw excitement that fantasy football provides. Either way,
right.
Man. I'm pretty stoked for this.
What kind of iced coffee you rocking there? Just black. To make it home?
Black.
Yeah, all right. Okay.
This is what we do. This is what we do right here. I got black coffee right now in my mug. It's hot. It's not ice.
I'm sipping.
Yeah, there we go.
Black coffee.
Sipping and steering this show to greatness. Well,
sorry, Austin. I just wanted to mention before we get started here, there are only 2 running back spots here. We've got a quarterback spot, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and then the super flex spot, and then the rest are bench spots. So this is, again, a dynasty startup.
Great point to bring up, and it is a principle that you should carry into your drafts. It sounds basic, but it cannot be overstated enough. Know the rules of the league you're about to enter into. Know how many roster spots there are. Know what scoring variations have been implemented. Know how many wide receivers are rostered. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 3. That standard number's kind of shifting. So just be sure to know that before you go into it. But as Johnny said, we got a 12-team, and Big Travie did as well. Dynasty, PPR, Superflex, startup. All the adjectives. Stoked on this one, though.
Shall we begin? Shall we begin?
Let's do it, man.
All right.
You won't.
Let's go.
You won't, but somebody will. And at the 1-1 spot, we got Captain Bob drafting, followed by the Cat's Pajamas. Game Time at the 3rd spot. Drew K. Lou in the 4. The Real Whisper, Death by Rona, previously known by. The artist formerly known by Death by Rona.
Yeah, the artist formerly known.
Jacob Bley, #1 fan. Travis Garden in the 7. We got Harry Geechee in the 8. Great for joining us. Jay Blizzy, our Whisper Nation Listener League champion. Easy Daddy in the 10. Donflict Donnie here in the 11th, and Big Travie there drafting at the 12. It's great to have all of you with us, gentlemen. Thanks for joining along. Patrick Mahomes 1-1. He's off the board, and Kyler Murray 1-2. I know Casper Jamas is not an Arizona boy like you are, Johnny.
I know, but this is great because the first couple of years I was saying Kyler Murray was a major steal in fantasy drafts, and people thought I was crazy. They were like, "Oh, you're just an Arizona homer. You don't know what you're talking about. This guy's small. He's not going to make it in the NFL." And look at fast forward. Maybe I didn't hit it 100%. I did think he was
the 1-1 overall.
Were any of those?
The league kind of liked him.
Were any of those statements wrong? Like, you are a homer, and he was small. So
I mean those
they're not lying to you.
Those two statements aren't wrong, but I mean the fact that I'm about to Christian wow, you guys almost had me. You guys
they were gonna mess you.
Wow, that almost happened. And actually I'm also man.
Rob Shorter, who is Captain Bob inside the draft, who took Pat Mahomes, has been waiting for this draft all week. It is Monday, so he's been waiting a few hours. But we appreciate you, Bob. Obviously, all the way across the pond in the United Kingdom, Bob joining us. We appreciate him every week, man. Big shout out.
Is Tampa Bay his team of choice because it's the one physically closest to where he's at right now?
Well, it's because they have the ship. They can go over to England and come back on the pirate ship, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, Johnny, in a startup, do you have any issues going Patrick Mahomes at the 1-1 spot in a dynasty startup situation like we got here?
I don't. I think that's fine because once again, it's a dynasty league, so he's got his major piece locked up for the foreseeable future, right?
Yeah.
Probably the next 10 years at least.
Yeah.
And we don't expect Pat Mahomes to decline over that time, and so I think it's a fine pick to take Pat Mahomes number 1 overall because there is a huge advantage to having your number 1 piece be eligible to be a top 3 quarterback each and every single year.
Big Travie, where do you kind of think about on this one in terms of the positional selection in a dynasty startup versus a redraft kind of league where we see bell cow backs strictly pretty much at the start of it? In a redraft, we're looking at quarterbacks coming up, which Johnny already said he has no issue with. I would agree with that. The real question that I wanted to ask you was about wide receivers coming in the mix because there's this narrative going on that running backs just have a much shorter shelf life compared to a wide receiver who might be stretching into 32, 33 years of age, Julio Jones-esque. Do you think is that something that we should be putting weight into? Is it a wide receiver is more of maybe an opportunistic spot? Or if you can get one of those running backs that's going to be leading their way, that's who you want to target?
So I like what you're like. I like what you laid out here. The thing about this draft, right, is that it's like this particular league is 12 team. That's one dynasty, obviously startup we talked about, but then the PPR and Superflex. So I'm okay with taking Pat Mahomes 1-1. I'm also okay if you want to wait on running back because you believe that you'll get a running back maybe in the next couple of years and you want to build the longer shelf life guys, quarterbacks and wide receivers. So I don't mind that, especially PPR. I think that puts the weight on really good main vein wide receivers, as we like to say, guys that are really a huge part of their offense. So yeah, I don't really have any problem with that. And I especially in Superflex with the quarterback situation, like I'm not take your guy. Kyler Murray 1-2, maybe not for me, but take your guy. You know what I mean? Like if that's your guy, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, you're gonna be getting 2 quarterbacks, and you're gonna be in this league for life potentially.
Right.
So age becomes a factor as well.
I do think also you can get, 1 or 2 year running backs much later in the draft, ones that'll just be patchwork for now. And so if you're at an elite level of other positions, you're stacking those up earlier in the draft and you're giving yourself a little bit more longevity. And then you're just grabbing these pieces at the running back, maybe a couple of rookies. You never know which ones you might land. And then you could be really, really set. Something I was really pushing last week because we did a dynasty as well, but it was only a 10 team, but just a strategic from a strategic standpoint, trading down in drafts and accumulating future draft picks is really, really handy, especially in the dynasty startup. So if you do have time to do that, especially in these first couple of rounds where you can majorly add an advantage to your team, that is something that's really, really important. Something that. Oh, go ahead, Travis.
Just to echo your point, Johnny, I think especially this year. Okay, so if we look what the Giants did, they kind of traded a lot of picks out of this year because of last year's COVID impact on college. There wasn't a lot of tape on guys, and some GMs like to see the tape or see a lot more tape of guys, and that affected the way they were willing to draft. This one was a light running back draft. It was a kind of ho-hum wide receiver draft with outside of Jamar Chase prospect wise. And so if you're looking at that as a dynasty owner and you have time to trade out of this draft particularly and get picks for next year when we're going to see more college football and we're going to get more tape and it could be a more plentiful draft, then I think that's smart to do. So to echo what Johnny's saying, also knowing the timeliness of what each draft has, and you can find these articles, and we'll tell you too on the show that tell you, oh, this is a offensive tackle heavy draft, or this is a wide receiver heavy draft, or this is a running back heavy draft. So you'll know that too in Dynasty.
You bring up some good points there. And Johnny, to your original one there about what players you're targeting, I think it does make a lot of sense in a dynasty startup to be locking in those pieces that you're going to have for what you expect an extended shelf life, like a wide receiver or a quarterback. Because if you get all those pieces locked in and you have a wide receiver who's already in stride, not a rookie incomer who you expect to get it going maybe year 2, year 3, you then have those spots ready for a running back to kind of insert themselves right in the mix. And while they're hard to get, you usually can expect them to get it going right away. Like if you're drafting one of those guys, in your rookie draft, most of the time, those rookie running backs are going to be getting action. If they're a name that we know, at least. And then to your point there, Travis, and to Johnny's as well, of trading back, it can make a lot of sense, right? Like last year, I'm just thinking of Jonathan Taylor was the sexy option. And maybe he is the most valuable player at the end of it. But if you're thinking of being able to move a couple of spots back, and instead of getting a Jonathan Taylor, you get yourself an Antonio Gibson, or you get yourself a J.K. Dobbins, you get yourself you got lucky and you picked yourself up a James Robinson, a DeAndre Swift, something like that. That's just a few picks back. And then when it was all said and done, was actually a very, very productive option in their rookie season, and then has a great trajectory moving forward as well. And you got a first-round pick for next year or something else like that. I would personally take myself an Antonio Gibson and a first-round pick over Jonathan Taylor straight up.
Or even like a Antonio Gibson in a second rounder, because what you can do with that second rounder, it can, it's a mystery box, right? And then you can end up, maybe you pair 2 second rounders next year to move into the back half of the first round next year, like things like that.
Sexy wide receiver allows you to get Antonio Gibson and a Brandon Ayuk. Would you rather have Antonio Gibson and Brandon Ayuk or Jonathan Taylor? Or you get real lucky and Justin Jefferson, who you picked up, Johnny, there at the second round is available. He was slipping.
I know. Well, I was going to say, I got kind of ahead of myself because I thought it was up right after Death by Rona, and I was bummed he took Devontae Adams because I was really excited that Devontae Adams was going to follow me in this late second, but then he took him, and then I was like clicking Justin Jefferson and it wasn't going through, but my pick wasn't up yet, so I got lucky that Drew K. Lou didn't take Justin Jefferson.
We did get lucky that Drew K. Lou did not swoop that pick. And Johnny and Travis, I got to say, I feel very lucky to be here with everybody in Whisper Nation making this show a possibility. And I wanted to mention while we got everybody here that our Patreon account is up and going, and we are nothing, TFW that is, nothing without Whisper Nation here, legitimately. It's your unwavering support that keeps this going, and we are so, so incredibly proud of this community that we built together. And if you feel it upon your heart to help us out and continue to grow this family and chase the dream we're all following here, consider joining us over at patreon.com. You can share your support at the $1, $5, $10 levels. And patron benefits include access to our exclusive Discord channels, entries to sports card giveaways. Johnny's on top of those like crazy. Increased odds for landing a spot in our 2021 Listener League, and bonus fantasy content that's only available to our patrons. Just head on over to patreon.com/thefantasywhispers today, and you can join the nation there. Also with that one, speaking of the Discord chat, because this thing is so freaking cool legitimately, and I'm not even naturally stoked about this, but this one is the Discord FF chat. Whisper Nation, we are very excited to debut our all new TFW FF chat on Discord. This message board is absolutely free to all of Whisper Nation and will include advice threads, content link, exclusive video clips, and a commonly dedicated to this incredible game of fantasy football. Join us today by clicking the link that we're going to drop in the chat right now, or by clicking the link in our Instagram bio page and following that link to Discord. It's really easy, and we cannot wait to see y'all in the chat. It's basically going to be like our one-stop shop to have communication going with the TFW crew now and forever. So go ahead and drop in on that link, and we'll get you going.
Yeah, just as you were saying that, Austin, we got Harry Geechee over in the Discord chat, Donflick. So love you guys joining us here for Mockin', and then we're not going to stop the party. We're going to be over in the Discord chat, dropping exclusive videos, as Austin said, and just really rocking and rolling over there. It's BYOB, though.
It's becoming a problem. Johnny's partying nonstop in that Discord chat. We had to have
we had to have an intervention for Johnny there.
Over there.
Yeah.
I pockets, man.
Hey,
don't hide your stuff.
I wanted to get to the chat is just going today. We got a couple of people talking about what they're trying. So Cast Pajamas, I'm just trying different things out for my dynasty draft coming up. And Harry Geechee 7 says the same. Dude, that's what we're here for. We're here. That's why we fill up the rooms every single week with Whisper Nation, because this gives an actual nice little insight on what could actually happen. We always say it, you can never mock any league, actually, but
you can't mock this league.
You can't mock this league, but that's why you jump in these ones so you can get used to getting gypped, right? The best way to, and you just got to get used to it. Like, imagine your underwear getting stolen, and how would you live your life? Your underwear just got snatched. What are you going to do about your life now? And that's the way you got to think about drafting, and the way we say it all the time. The psychology of getting sniped.
What if you're one of the people that doesn't wear underwear?
Then you're like, you've thought ahead.
Then you're
that's how you avoid it.
And they're just grabbing skin.
Look, that's
and you're
why
like,
you come to. That's why you come to the Fantasy Whisperers, because we're changing your life. We're saying, hey, maybe don't wear underwear. Maybe you don't need it. Okay, think ahead.
Maybe it's a Ponzi scheme invented by Haynes.
It reminded me of when we first started doing our merch store, and our design, one of our designers, Hannon, he put our logo on a pair of underwear, and he was like, "Should we sell this on the website?"
We got to bring that back. Honestly, I think TFW undies is if you're gonna have underwear, that's the underwear to have.
That's the only underwear. I don't wear underwear because I'm waiting for TFW officially licensed material to hit the marketplace, and when it does, I'll go back to wearing underwear. But until then, no way. Yeah. Not even thinking about it.
I love it.
Speaking of loving it, Travis Kelce, George Kittle in the 3rd round. I'm a little bit surprised that we saw these two tight ends off the board before Kelvin Benjamin and Tim Tebow, boys.
Yeah.
What's going on with that?
I will say I was thinking about taking Kittle with the CD Lamb pick, but I ended up going CD Lamb. But yeah, the Tim Tebow and Calvin Benjamin news, man, really shook the fantasy community this weekend.
I do want to get back to that subject because it's a really fun one, but I think it'll be better served a little bit later on when the names are a little bit more dry.
After Tebow kind of gets drafted, then we'll talk about
maybe so. Or a little bit later down the way at least. But I want to get your guys' take right now, at least on these first couple of rounds as we're starting to move it through, as which guys are being selected that just make you go, like that's who I was secretly hoping was going to fall back your way. Now, this is a dynasty startup, kind of moving into the 2nd round here. The 1st round, everybody's taking their guy. There's a lot of juice up in there. But the 2nd round, it starts to get a little bit cuter in sense of people making reaches, people going outside of the realm of expectations. And Travis, who in that 2nd round were you looking and you were hoping that you had a shot at maybe getting, or if you were in the draft room when it was going on, you'd be like, oh man, that's who I was having. Maybe has the biggest upside, or somebody that maybe cooking with something that really hasn't been fully considered and it's going to be bumping their ADP up.
Yeah. AJ Brown is one that consistently comes up as a guy. Like, I could have taken him here. I wanted to build my dynasty or my Superflex with quarterbacks first, but if I was going to pivot from that strategy, AJ Brown was a guy I'm targeting, and I'm just smashing all AJ Brown as the #1 wide receiver off the board. It just makes so much sense to me. There's there's so much to talk about with the Devontae Adams thing. I know Devontae Adams is going to, especially in redraft, you love Devontae Adams in redraft. If Rodgers is there, you know that. But there's a lot of cloud and of uncertainty there. And then there's, the
Brown's
age
like
factor.
he's like Devontae Adams last year, right?
Yes.
But like
And so for me, AJ Brown is a guy that's been hyper productive on a lower target volume. Okay. And now we're going to say that 140 or some odd targets are vacated. They didn't get anybody in the draft to scare you off. Like
Jonnu Smith is gone. Corey Davis is gone.
Yes. And so we're talking about a situation where he could get this is a top 10 wide receiver on a low target volume. Give him some targets and it's game over. And so I'm just loving AJ Brown at this point.
They're not going to have an opportunity to not force feed him, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be like that scene in Seven for the gluttons. Like they're just going to
Exactly.
but real talk, they kind of have to.
Yeah.
And this is one of those cases where it's actually not a bad situation. Reminds me like Brandon Marshall back with Jay Cutler with the Bears.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Or Andy Dalton with AJ Green early on.
But maybe even a better prospect here in Brown.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Like he might be better than
and a
AJ
much better
Green
run game paired with him, which means play action is always available. And then you're just talking about all these different ways that you can get AJ Brown open.
It actually kind of does remind me of the Packers last year. Obviously, Ryan Tannehill is far from an Aaron Rodgers situation, but Ryan Tannehill can legitimately get it done. Mike Vrabel is running a very competent offense over there. Derrick Henry might be the best pure running back in the game right now, most scary for sure. So it's kind of like AJ Brown, he's physically an elite. He's got an elite role on the squad. They didn't bring in anything to suggest he's going to get decreased loads. Like, I think he might be the 1-1 wide receiver for me.
Well, it's funny that you say that Tannehill isn't, Rodgers, and he's not. But like since Tannehill has taken over that job, it's been Rodgers, Mahomes, and Tannehill that are the top three quarterbacks in that time span.
Wow,
in that time frame. So Tannehill is putting up numbers with this offense, obviously, since he left Adam Gase. The one thing that I'll note is Arthur Smith was a huge part of that. And is now gone. So we'll just see kind of where that goes. But yeah, I love me some Tannehill. I love AJ Brown, and I don't think it's that crazy to say 1-1 wide receiver for.
I love that take there, and getting AJ Brown there in the second round is certainly nice. Johnny, I wanted to swing it back over your way. Similar kind of question here. I know DeAndre Swift was taking the pick right before you, and that's your boy. But you got Justin Jefferson there in the second spot, who might be a lot of other members drafting alongside us. Answer to who made you go, oh, I want him. Justin Jefferson might have been the selection behind AJ Brown. But following your pick, Johnny, with his Elliott and Stephon Diggs, and then going into the third round, any players here that you were just looking at, really hoping that were on your squad, or if you were in that draft room and your league mate picks them up and you go, oh man, good pick, man, good pick. Which guy says behind Justin Jefferson all the way through the third makes you say that the most?
I mean, Antonio Gibson, I love that pick. I think that some like Joe Mixon falling all the way to the end of the third. Again, I really do like that pick. I don't know if I would start that heavy in a dynasty with three running backs like that. I mean, Travis Etienne is a much younger running back. But I do like Joe Mixon and his value, especially in a dynasty. But I will say that Michael Thomas is probably the guy I was really kind of eyeing, because
in the third round.
In the third round, yeah. So like I was, when I was trying to pick, I was going between CD and Michael Thomas because they're both super, super young, both super talented.
28 years old for Michael Thomas now. That's maybe not super young.
27.
Well, right, 27.
Oh, no.
27?
I'm sorry, Michael Thomas.
I thought Michael Thomas was.
He's 28.
I think. Okay. So, but I think he's being disrespected a little bit because of the Drew Brees no longer being there. But what we saw was it didn't matter. Like I mean, it did matter when Taysom Hill was the quarterback. He didn't go to him as often, but we did see that they started to build a chemistry there. And if Jameis Winston ends up being the quarterback, which I think we all think is going to happen, then we've seen him pepper his number one guy, like Mike Evans, like we said, has had many.
Why do we think that Jameis Winston is going to be the quarterback over Taysom Hill? Taysom Hill did a pretty good job. He was named the starter, and now Drew Brees is gone. I'm not saying that I disagree. I'm just wondering what kind of information you're looking at to say that you're giving the nod to Jameis Winston over Taysom Hill.
So a lot of beat writers are talking about Jameis Winston probably being the guy, but that they're going to stick. I think Sean Payton loves using Taysom as the gadget. I don't think he really wants to run his full offense through him. I don't think he wants to run it through Jameis, but they didn't like this quarterback class based on where they were picking. And I think that they got both guys on a 1-year deal kind of essentially, and they'll just ride this one more year and then try to get in on next year's quarterback class.
Okay.
Yeah. I just think that as well, like Jameis has a bigger arm. And so I think when you are looking at that offense and what Sean Payton likes to do, like we have to remember what Drew Brees used to do too. Like Drew Brees used to really air it out. And I think that that's what Sean Payton also wants to do, but he hasn't been able to because Drew Brees hasn't been able to have the arm strength to do so. And we've seen on the limited action that Jameis came in and did last year that he was pretty effective and efficient on the few. Yeah, granted, it's not a big sample size, but I do think that with Sean Payton, maybe with him getting his eyes, back to 2020 vision, that maybe Jameis could potentially lead this. And we already know that he could put up stats. Like that was never the thing. He was always putting up stats. He was throwing 5,000 yards, but he was just throwing a lot of picks as well.
Just pretty loose.
Yeah.
Yeah. If he can go ahead and lock it up and get a little bit tighter and elevate his thought process in terms of playing football, Jameis Winston, we all know that he could be a serious problem in the NFL. And that Michael Thomas pick, then you assume would be his number one target. And we've seen him be the number one receiver in the NFL. But there are a lot of question marks really though, right? Like he's infamous for just running the slant routes. He had Drew Brees kind of force feeding him along that way. That's an interesting pickup for Michael Thomas. I'm definitely stoked if I get him in the third, but I kind of understand why he might be slipping a little bit.
I do think it's kind of funny that people like hate on that because it's like, like if you're really good at something and then your quarterback, like that's what he can throw, of course, like that's what's going to be in the game plan. But I feel like Michael Thomas can do so much more than that. That's just what they needed him to do. And
if you get him and then he busts out and does a lot more, you're certainly stoked. I wanted to shift it over to another wide receiver who I think got a little bit disrespected here in Travi. That was DeAndre Hopkins, your end of the third round pick, who if I was picking in this third round and saying which guy made me go, oh, I wanted him, I think it'd be DeAndre Hopkins for me. He just, in his year one debut with Arizona, looked phenomenal. Looked like he was who we thought he could be, Travi.
Yeah, and the only problem I don't like with Hopkins is he doesn't get peppered like he did in Houston.
Yeah.
I mean, he demands a good target share there, and they've brought in more weapons. But I'm going to go ahead and go with more is better. Like if we're getting more opportunities in Arizona because they improve the offense, that's only going to lead to better things for DeAndre. And DeAndre's really just came into his own as the alpha in Arizona, which we knew he was an alpha when he moved there. But that Hail Mary catch and the swag after that, I mean, he is the guy there. So regardless of what comes into town, I think he's a bargain at the end of the third round here, still only 28 years old. So some still good legs on him. And then what I was able to do was get, McLaurin and DJ Shark for the youth factor to pair with him. I actually really would have completed the trifecta with Mike Evans there, but Don Flick took him right before me. But yeah, I did. I love me some Hopkins. Nuke is the man.
He closed the year out with 5 games of double-digit targets coming his way, and that was an increase. So it would suggest that him and Kyler Murray are getting a groove going. And I love all the added points he put in there. A better offense, more first downs, more opportunities. I don't think anybody's challenging D-Hop for that number one slot.
Travis is I gotta hand it to Travis. He's really putting a team and a squad together over here. Like D-Hop, Terry McLaurin, and DJ Chark, and then grab Myles Gaskins there in the 6. Like that's what I was talking about earlier, right? Like you're able to, especially if you trade down, like look at this value. And that's what's nice about doing these mock drafts or watching these mock drafts is you're gonna see, unlike the people who might be just drafting for the first time or not think mock drafting is important, they'll start reaching on guys or making dumb moves because they don't realize the value that comes much later in drafts. And so, yeah, Travis, handing it to you, dude. Like,
appreciate
nice
that. We'll see. There's still a lot to go, but I the thing is like we were talking about at the top, Austin and Johnny, we were talking about what can you do with a dynasty and these career lengths. And I was like, well, maybe I punt running back a little bit from the end of this draft, try to really hammer in wide receiver, especially starting 3 of them, especially PPR. And so we'll see how that pans out. I think it's just sometimes you want to go with those those longer shelf lives when you know it. And it's like, if I got to take a Myles Gaskin and then in 2 years he isn't the guy, oh well, I'll get in on the running back market in the next couple of years through the rookie draft.
Invest in that heavy because you've already got DJ Shark, McLaurin, and Hopkins who are going to be your go-tos,
right?
Barring any substantial injury for the next 3, 4, 5 years on that timeline there. I wanted to ask you guys, this is a personal question. Following the Terry McLaurin pick, Big Travie there in the 4th, I wanted to ask the same question about the 5th, and we start to see some more rookies coming off the board, newly selected rookies. We saw Najee Harris in the 2nd, leading the way for Pittsburgh. I don't think there's any surprises about that pickup. But the one for me that has, and it's not just because I roster James Robinson in our Dynasty League here, I think it's a really fair question. If Travis Etienne was selected right behind Najee Harris, going to play again with Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville now. But then we see Urban Meyer coming out with these lines that we're playing him as a wide receiver. We're looking at him being more of a 3rd down back with Carlos Hyde and James Robinson taking the early load. Is Travis Etienne shaping up to be a disappointment if you take him early on in rookie drafts, expecting him to be more of a traditional running back for your squad?
Yeah, I can't get a solid take on ETN just yet. And I know I love that you brought up, everybody talks about the 3rd down back, but not enough people talk about what Urban Meyer said there, Austin, about making him actually a slot wide receiver and actually using him as like more of a receiving weapon, which makes you feel bad about like ETN maybe, and makes you feel bad about Laviska Shenault possibly, and what they're going to do there. And so
I think he's turning into a Tavon Austin. They're going to use him like 5 plays a game.
Urban Meyer just strikes me as a guy that's like trying to mess it up. Like he is literally like, I am going to be as kitschy and as funky and weird and like my guys only and like this. And I'm just like, dude, and you root for him. Like I'd love to see him motivate, but this seems a little bit tough for me to get behind. And so for that reason, like ETN, like I'm not exactly in on, especially in redraft. He's going to be overdrafted, I think, because he was a walking touchdown. I get why people love him. Like he was a playmaker. He is elusive, one of the most elusive backs to come out of college based on PFF metrics.
So is Andy Isabella.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So you look at guys that like that can happen, and then the situation means everything. And James Robinson's going to get that volume and that goal line work most likely. So if they're going to use him as a wide receiver, I don't know if I love that for the first year quarterback coming in. I might love it because I just don't know if that's the guy you want to build your running back room around, I guess is what I'm getting at.
So there are a couple of important things, or like kind of cookie crumble trails here that you can kind of look into.
What kind of cookie crumbles?
So some pretty interesting ones. So it could be Snickerdoodle, dude. Like that's where you gotta, like, you have to always lead with that one because that like gets them in, you know, get your mouth watering, dude. But so Urban Meyer so it's been reported, or beat reporters are saying that Urban Meyer plans to use Travis Etienne like Percy Harvin, like a new Percy Harvin. And so, but that's just like one part of it. The other thing that came out over the weekend was that, so I don't know if it was necessarily over the weekend, but I heard it over the weekend, was that the Jaguars actually, their plan wasn't to take Travis Etienne. Their plan was they really wanted Kadarius Toney, the wide receiver that the Giants got. And because he's a gadget guy, and because they weren't able to get him, that's why they went with ETN. And so I am just like, yes, the potential is obviously there for Travis Etienne, as far as like we know kind of what we've seen from Percy Harvin. Here's what's interesting, and why I think Travis Etienne's value actually goes up, even though he's not going to be slotted necessarily at the running back position. And that's because of like he'll be used a lot more all over the field. And so they're going to want to use him in the red zone. And when you're talking about a position where you can potentially use that for a running back position, because he'll have that dual, position eligibility, so wide receiver and running back potentially, that becomes so much more valuable in fantasy football because of where you can play them and how you can stack your roster. So that, I think, is what's going to be really, really interesting, is how they note him, because if they leave him as a running back and he's getting wide receiver and moving all over, I think that makes him a little bit more valuable. Or if they do end up designating him and saying, okay, we're going to put him more importantly at the wide receiver as well, because he plays a lot of slot receiver, then that's where the trick comes in and the cheat code.
He's starting to shake out to me like he would be a cheat code if he was originally a wide receiver that is now getting a ton of reps in the running back room. But if you're getting a running back who you're hoping to get 15 touches a game, and now he's spending the majority of his time practicing out of the slot, that to me is a Lynn Bowden downgrade. That to me is one of those Tavon Austin. What do you even do here?
I'm not saying I'm more so saying if you're able to put him in the wide receiver slot and he's like, he's going to get like running back kind of targets and usage, right? Because he'll get like 10 to 12 touches a game, maybe
through the air too.
Yeah, combined, like total.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're able to do that, but you're able to slot him at the wide receiver position because he's playing the majority of his routes out of the slot, I think that's where he becomes really valuable, because Percy Harvin was a wide receiver.
Yeah, we've got the chat popping off here on comparisons, and I heard Austin talk about, Johnny talked about Percy Harvin, then we're talking about Lynn Bowden, and then the guys are talking about like maybe Naheem Hines situation here. I just want to remind everyone, the draft capital for ETN is way better than all those guys we've mentioned. Okay, so we're talking about ETN going in the first round, and I'm not saying he's valid.
Percy Harvin was in the first round too, right?
Okay. I don't remember. Yeah, probably. But
Tavon Austin too.
Yeah,
top 10.
Other than those other guys, like for me, I think ETN could go down the gadget route, but the draft capital would suggest that they're going to try to manufacture him work regardless. So whether or not he can get it done with that work, I don't know. But they should, money-wise, capital-wise, be spending a lot of time getting him going. I don't think, Donnie's coming in here saying I chose him specifically for PPR, and I think, you're valid in wanting to. If you're going to hang your hat on him, that's the talent you want to hang it on, is his elusiveness and the pass catching. But we'll see. I mean, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to elevate this offense. It's just like in what ways, and does he going to only go for ETN, and hammer him with targets out of the slot? I don't know.
Maybe that's his go-to guy from the relationship they had back in Clemson. Maybe this gives him a leg up.
Maybe Tebow's his go-to guy. Who knows?
Maybe speaking, and you've got yourself, Travi, an opportunity to keep holding out on tight end as people keep foolishly passing on Kelvin Benjamin and Tim Tebow. Said with a little bit of sarcasm. But it is a fun one to see. I did want to catch up to a couple of the picks here before we let the rest of the draft get away. You guys did a great job giving some answers of who you were most stoked about in rounds 2 and 3. We talked a lot about round 4 here, specifically with Travis Etienne. I think it's a really intriguing storyline that'll continue to develop, and we'll continue to talk about a second wide receiver, running back off the board, second one in the first round, going to play with his quarterback from college. But enough on that matter. I wanted to give my take of who I'm stoked about here in the 4th round. And if he was selected and I just missed him, I would have been like, such a bummer. And that's Clyde Edwards-Helaire, deep in the 4th round. This is a guy who his rookie season had over exactly 1,100 yards, a little over 800 on the ground, just under 300 through the air. Averaged, I know it was a disappointing output from a lot of different metrics for the first running back taken off the board, going to what was expected to be the number 1 offense in the league. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire still finished with 4.4 yards per carry, 1,100 yards total, and a handful of touchdowns as well. So I'm just excited to see what this running back will do in his second year. And if you got a guy that young playing for that good a squad who didn't draft a running back this year, I'm pretty stoked about him in the 4th.
And did work on their offensive line, not only in the draft, but trading for pieces. They realized that the running game and protecting Patrick Mahomes was huge for them. It's the reason why they lost the Super Bowl in their mind, and we saw that.
I like that pick. Good job, man.
Yeah, I think CEH is a definite. I'm buying the dip on CEH for sure.
Dude, I'm buying the spike on David Montgomery going into the 5th round. I feel like I got to give a kudos to Johnny on this one. You too, Travi, who had been really pushing David Montgomery from a possibility perspective since his inception in the NFL. And then a lot of talk about his elite opportunity he was getting. And then we all know what he did at the end of the year, top 5 running back to close it out, to be a top 5 running back in PPR leagues and a top 6 in standard leagues overall in the year. Just had an insane finish. And I think that David Montgomery is a pretty exciting prospect, both for dynasty startups, as we're mocking right now, as well as for redraft. I think he's almost going kind of criminally low, his ADP as it stands right now. I think that's going to continue to bump up. What do you think, Johnny?
It'll be interesting to see if it does creep up. Now, I only say that because there are a lot of people who don't believe in that finish, because they look and say, oh, the schedule was, favorable. He also had all these opportunities because of no other running backs there. They brought in, Williams, and they have Cohen coming back. And so all of this would tend to lead that he can't do it again. And yeah, sure, maybe he can't be a top 5 back because all those things aren't going to line up. But we also have to remember, like, people keep saying, oh, his production went up as soon as Cohen left the lineup. And it certainly did go up more substantially because the opportunities went up. But we also have to remember that he started off slow because he was coming off a groin injury. He slipped 2 weeks before the start of the season, and there were a lot of reports saying it came off the bone, like it was bad, right? And then for him to come back, the timeline on a severe injury was like 6 weeks. Well, he came back at 4. Or actually he even started off slow, right? And then you saw him get that. So I believe, looking at the glass half full, that it was not only the fact that he got the more touches, but he also started to get healthy around that time. And I think that's why the Bears were comfortable with, not signing another running back or going with him. And I do believe that this offense and Nagy likes to use one running back more so than multiple. Because he wants to be able to not tip the defense as to what they
almost
might
to
be doing.
Fault, right? Like maybe Montgomery shouldn't have been the guy after his rookie year that they rolled out with such confidence, but they did, and it looks to be paying off.
Yeah, and so I think with those combination of things, it's going to keep his draft stock around the same. But I do think it's a value because I do think they do trust in David Montgomery. I think with them getting Justin Fields, we talk about how a rushing quarterback kind of hinders the running back, in the sense of it does take a couple of rushing attempts away, but it also more so hinders and caps the receiving work from running backs more so than it does an actual rushing standpoint. And for that reason, David Montgomery he didn't get a lot of his points from receptions. He got it on the ground, and yeah, he did get some through the air. But I will say that I still think he can still finish as, a mid RB2 on the low side and maybe like a late RB1 on the high side, because this offense could be more efficient if these quarterbacks can kind of work it out. I think
definitely. He definitely absolutely can, right? He was playing with a whole host of what quarterback do I get this week, Alex? And he still finished to perform as a mid-round RB1. So it's definitely in the mix again this year, especially if he avoids injury. And if Justin Fields outperforms, then watch out. That could be a steal pick. Moving to another running back drafted a couple of years ago, though, Big Travie. In that 6th round, you took Gaskin, leaving Josh Jacobs still on the board.
Yeah, it was. I actually looked at Jacobs because I also took Sermon right after. Or I'm sorry, is that true? No, I'm sorry. That was the other turn.
Shark and Gaskin.
Yeah, Shark and Gaskin. I did look at Jacobs. I was looking at it, but I have not liked where they have not used him in the passing game consistently, and what they have done to bring in other guys such as Kenyon Drake. And I just, for me, it's just Gaskin has the unlimited volume right now, and I'm kind of taking that bet, on him. I think he's a 7th rounder. I don't think he's anything crazy special, but Miami loves him, and they didn't draft anybody outside of 7th round this year. And so for me, I'm really buying in on that Miami offense, all the extra opportunities, and the fact that Brian Flores showed his hand. He's not like Belichick in the fact that he gives it to one guy if he's the guy. We saw that all last year. So I'm just buying that volume right there. And unfortunately, if we're looking at up and down arrows, Jacobs' volume has a huge down arrow coming into this year.
And Gaskin might not be a sexy spot, but it's an improving Miami team, and Gaskin was their best running back, and it could be really his load.
And you know what I think is great about choosing Gaskin over at Jacobs here? It's going to be a lot harder for me to cut ties with Jacobs, if I draft him there, just because of the draft pedigree for him, what you think he's supposed to be, all of this stuff that built sunk cost value. I think the other thing for me is like with Gaskin, if it's not working after this year or halfway into this year and they go to someone else, okay, I'll cut ties. That's fine. It's Myles Gaskin, 7th round running back. Like I don't, for me, it's a lot easier to get out of that if I need to and trade out of it if I need to.
If the tea leaves read right, that's a pretty great read. I'm feeling what you're doing. It's fun to definitely do it in a mock. I don't know if I'd have the cojones to pull that off in a real mock draft to Gaskin over Jacobs, but I feel what you're saying.
The thing that I like about Gaskins is the fact that he averaged 4.1 yards per carry, and you guys know, I'm not a huge yards per carry guy, but he did that behind the league's worst offensive line, which then, when you put it in that perspective, I do think that that's significant. And he was able to produce so well for you that if they get a better offensive line, they gel well, that offense comes together, I do believe that he could be a very, very good running back.
Yeah, it's just to see about that opportunity. Miami's a really fun team looking at seeing what they're about. So Joe Johnny's here making his 11th round selection. Travis, sticking here in that 6th round, I just wanted to know between Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Jerry Jeudy, who would you rather have on your wide receiver dynasty startup team? So
I think I'd probably lean. This is tough, man. Both teams in like funky quarterback positions. I guess I'll take Claypool just because I know, the big brain thing here, Austin. This may hurt us a little bit, but the big brain thing here would be to take Jerry Jeudy and hope that Denver makes the trade for Aaron Rodgers. You're like, let's try and get ahead of that. But I think really I would go with Claypool, the upside, the build, the prospect.
Over Deontay Johnson too?
Yeah, I would. It's just like the prospect wise. So what happens, when they change quarterbacks eventually? I think talent wins out. I think that big bodied frame, that ability to get down the field.
Right?
He's just like they call him Mapletron. And I just think he's just such a great athlete. And so, I'm just leaning on that. Now, I think Judy's great. And I think Jeudy gets overlooked because his catch rate was really low in his rookie year, but I'm all about Claypool, man. I think that's the pick there.
Yeah. I think Deontay Johnson has been getting this alpha role because of his position on the team, but you look at the physicals between Claypool and Johnson, which, hey, Antonio Brown's got similar physicals to Deontay Johnson and was one of the best wide receivers in the league for many years. But Claypool is looking really nice as well. And that's a big dude, 6'4", 227 pounds, just 22 years old. I like that as well. So moving it forward, and Johnny had just gotten done. He took Devontae Parker here in the 11th. But Johnny, I wanted to get your take on the 7th. If there was any running backs here that made you go, damn, how is this guy still available? Which could help give listeners a kind of a good idea who maybe they should be targeting a little bit later on here. At least I'll let you. I guess I want to get your take before I keep running, Johnny. Who are you looking at here in the 7th round that you're like, wow, how is he still available? That's a steal.
Well, I think Mike Davis in the 7th round is a very nice steal, especially when you're talking about some of these later round running backs. If you need to patchwork, Mike Davis is going to come into some very nice opportunity there in Atlanta. But yeah, Trace Sermon, Travis, once again, I really like what he's putting together here. The Trace Sermon pick for the 49ers. We know how effective that running back room is. We also know how injury prone that running back room is. And so I think that there could be a very nice opportunity sooner rather than later for Trace Sermon to really put a stamp on one of the league's best running back or running games. So if it's his offense, watch out. That is such a steal pick. He's a big running back. So
what are
yeah,
the chances? What are the chances that he ends up getting more than 50% of the snap share, more than 50% of the touches? Not holding you to it. Not not asking to write it in blood.
I'm going to say just because they traded up, that's the big thing that's being talked about, is that they traded up into the to get that pick. They used some capital there. And because, as Johnny said, this has been a injury-prone backfield, and all of their other guys are undrafted or six-rounders that come through. You know, Raheem Mostert's one of the best undrafted free agents we've ever seen. I just think Sermon is a big back that, like, as Johnny said, that can absorb some of these hits, and his running style is such that he played in that wide zone scheme, so he understands it already. There's a lot working in his favor. So, you know, I'd say 60. That's why I draft him where I do. That's why I think he's a great dynasty pick. I think he's even a good redraft pick. You know, Evan Silva's been quoted as saying as one of those long shot offensive rookie of the years. Like, it could be Trey Sermon. You could be sitting there at the end of the year. That's a good bet if you're looking for a futures bet, just because the odds that you get on it. So I think Sermon is definitely a guy to keep your eye on. As you know, you hope he doesn't get overdrafted, but I liked where I got him here. Especially
I like we got him too there, Johnny. I like to mention Mike Davis. I got to throw him out there. I like James Robinson there in the 7th. That's a guy who should be getting a lot of load too.
We were talking
exactly how Urban Meyer says it's going to be.
I love that you brought this up. It's just not a take that's being talked about enough. Is I think that ETN and Robinson are probably, especially in redrafts, going to flip positions here, where ETN's going to be overdrafted, and there's going to be a lot of room to draft James Robinson and get a value there because of that. And I think that's what we're seeing here. I love that you brought that up. It's a conflicting take that not enough people are talking about. How
we just
Robinson's
saw the guy get it done.
Value. Yeah,
like we saw him actually perform really well on a really bad team. And even if it's not your guy, there's a pretty quick way to become a coach's guy, and that's to show up on time, do good work, and make plays.
Right.
I don't think James Robinson's going to have a hard time with that. He's still so young and everything.
Well, it's like I was talking to Johnny. The big question for me is this, Austin. Okay, do we think that Trevor Lawrence increases this, improves this offense?
A little bit. I'm not going to say as much as I think people think he will, but a little bit.
Last year, that same offense that he's now going to improve produced the RB7 in fantasy football. So if we think that they're going to be better, there should be more meat on the bone. So even if they are splitting and he's getting passing down work seated, he's still going to be probably the goal line guy more times than not, and the short yardage, grinder. And if the offense is better, I mean, I'm not saying I think his ceiling now isn't RB1 status. Like, it's probably fringe RB1 is probably his ceiling now, but because of those receiving work being seated, but that's still good. If you can get him later than he's been going.
Yeah.
I want to mention. So Matt asked Mike Davis, the career backup, when that we were talking about. Hey, he could. Everyone needs to get an opportunity, and once they did, he was a PPR ranked RB12, and then in standard he was a RB18, and now he should get. Now once again, it is a dynasty league. Am I saying this is a long-term solution at the running back position? No, but again, if you need a running back for a year or two and you're going to be able to get that starter in the 7th round, do you think that is some value there?
Well, and like just to ask you, like, what did the Falcons do? What have they shown us that they're bringing in another guy? They literally brought in Mike Davis. They've done nothing else. Now they could still sign Gurley back. They could sign Adrian Peterson, Johnny's favorite running back on the market, but they haven't done it so far, and no team has more vacated carries than Atlanta with 384. No team has more unaccounted for carries, or they were second in the league in runs inside the 5 that they're not bringing back. 17 runs inside the 5 last year with Todd Gurley that they're not bringing back yet. So Mike Davis is set up on volume alone for RB2 upside. So that's what you're buying there, and then to get him as cheap as you can, like that's.
Josh A saying, I personally think Todd Gurley will go to Miami.
Well, I hope not.
Why not?
I hope not either. Ryan Weiss from Club Fantasy FFL, it's popping in here. Love Lawrence deep ball combined with the Chark and Jones. You could see more DPI calls and more goal line carries, thus more TDs for J-Rob. I love that.
Ryan Weiss with the big brain insight. I know. Dude.
Also, we'll be going on their show on Wednesday. We'll be doing a mock draft with them. So make sure you catch that. We'll be going live. That is going to be at 4 p.m.
Our guy Donnie over here bringing up Patterson in the running back room for Atlanta. That's come on, Donnie.
Oh, yeah.
Come on now. Come on now.
We got some other good takes in here. Josh, our Whisper Nation champ, Deontay Johnson, targets out of this world, and reference that Claypool, Deontay Johnson. But remember, we're talking here in dynasty setup. We're looking at the long haul, which includes Ben Roethlisberger not being there in a year or two.
And I get the case you're making for Deontay, just a volume monster,
sure.
and I get it 100%. And really, what it'll come down to is your personal preference, right, Austin? Like, do I want the volume and the safe play? Do I want Jarvis Landry and the safe play, or do I want the mystery box upside of OBJ? You know, do I want the safe play in Deontay Johnson in the volume, or do I want the mystery upside in Chase Claypool? And I'll just say some of the touchdowns Claypool scored last year had me really excited.
It reminds me of last year in redraft leagues, Tyler Lockett versus DK Metcalf.
Yes.
Now, I'm not putting Chase Claypool and DK Metcalf on the same spectrum, but I kind of am. And Tyler Lockett is the PPR target monster who has the rapport with Russell Wilson. And then DK Metcalf, though, is the large in charge physical freak who still got some holes in his game, who showed us last year that those holes don't matter. I will throw Stephon Gilmore to the ground with joy. And I think Chase Claypool, he's young, he's developing, he has a higher ceiling than a Deontay Johnson, whose main game comes from force-fed targets. Hey, Chase Claypool could get force-fed targets by the next quarterback in Pittsburgh too. And these are human beings who are looking to improve. And if that does happen, he's got more to step into than a 5'10" Deontay Johnson does. That's just
strip club Dwayne Haskins over there in Pittsburgh. Maybe he's the heir apparent. Who knows?
Thinking about there. Before we're coming down to the last 2.5 rounds here. Not necessarily need to be lightning quick, but I did want to get your guys' take of guys here now in the 8th round, and then each one down who if they were taken in your draft and you go, oh my God, how is he still there? I was really hoping that I could get him. Guys that we might be expecting to climb up ADP ranks as the season gets a little bit closer. We just touched on there on the 7th round. A lot of good names in there. The 8th round, starting to get a little bit drier, but we still got some big names. Julio Jones and Odell Beckham all the way down there in the 8th. Is that where they should be, or is that an oversight?
Well, it was interesting. I'm going to bring up 8th and 9th too. But Matt was saying earlier, 8th and 9th round is full of win now receivers. Lockett, Woods, Julio. Personally, I'm more a Curtis Samuel kind of guy, though.
Yeah, I was going to say Curtis Samuel initially there, just because I think this opportunity to get reunited with the coaching staff in Washington is very exciting. To have Ryan Fitzpatrick this year at least kind of slinging the ball to him. There's some things working in Curtis Samuel's favor. But yeah, Robert Woods being there, especially in a PPR with Matt Stafford coming in, like that is definitely a win now situation, but also maybe a couple years, maybe not just as win now as a Julio or an Odell in some of these in this round. Maybe, Robert Woods is a guy that lasts for a few years more.
Dude, I love what they were saying here. Tony Reimer in the chat just said, damn, disappointed I missed this one. 12-team Superflex Dino is my favorite, and then says Julio is a smash in the 8th.
Well, Tony, we mock draft every single Monday at noon Eastern time, 3 p.m. Pacific. Or sorry, 3 p.m. Pacific time or Eastern time. 3 Eastern. 3 Eastern.
I'll do you one Pacific. Even better, Tony.
Yeah.
If you go ahead and go to the comments, I just dropped it in there. Go to that Discord channel. You'll get the link every Monday there, and you'll get to scratch your fantasy football itch all week now, because we're going to be in there talking fantasy football. So Tony, get in there, click that link, go to the Discord channel, and welcome to the show, man.
And that's not just Tony specific, Whisper Nation. Join our Discord FF chat. It's where we're going to be going to for all of our early on messages, advice, getting different threads, links, video clips dropping. And if you haven't subscribed to our Patreon account, that's the other opportunity you have to jump ahead, support the show, and help us grow alongside all of you guys. So if you haven't gone ahead and followed along on Patreon or joined the Discord chat, please do. And at an even lighter lift, you can go ahead and just like and subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram as well. Those would be the big 4 right now. You can catch the live links coming every Monday for our sleeper rooms, as well as then the content that's usually deployed through YouTube, but put forward on all of the social media platforms. Make sure you give those a like and a follow as well.
Unbelievable. Travis auto picks Jonu Smith or
Yeah,
Jonu
I
Smith.
didn't mean to.
Oh well, didn't mean to. Unbelievable.
We had
Well,
our
I was,
boys.
I was over here working for the brand,
Well,
dropping links in the comments.
wish you wouldn't have. I wish you
Unreal.
wouldn't have auto drafted you, Jonu Smith.
I know, me too.
I wanted him.
Well, it's working
Well,
though. We've got Matt here. You see in the comments saying, "Hell yeah! I didn't know you boys had a Discord. I'll see you there."
Oh
Looking
yeah,
forward to
baby.
that. Looking forward to that. Absolutely.
Sorry.
I hated
Donnie?
these 2 picks.
Is it? Donnie.
I hate
I
these.
went to.
Yeah, Ahmed. That's not bad.
Yeah,
Travis.
Yeah,
I like that pairing up with Gaskin. You should have the back now.
Yeah, it's all right.
But then again, you had Jordan Howard and Matt Breida last year and thought you had the backs from Miami too. And
I mean,
Jordan Howard, man.
it's-
Well, he was scoring touchdowns for you with
little
3
bit.
yards.
for sure. Well, sticking here, I just wanted to get the
Look at that. We
There's
got
11 people in here.
Whisper
Smash
Nation.
like you heathens. Oh my God, Tony.
Tony,
Get you
our
on the
guy.
payroll
Dude.
over
We
here.
got-
Where's this guy been?
You
We got-
heathen.
we're gonna get you on the-
Dude, he just hops in here and he's like fits right in with Whisper Nation because we got guys.
We'd love to have you here, man.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. Oh damn, Chenault going in the 10th. I just saw that one there, and that's even a round lower. I just think that's such a great pick so late. I'm a big Chenault fan. I think his limits have not even been freaking understood.
Look, I know, Johnny, you're coming up here, so I want you to make your pick, but I want you to talk a little more on the Jonu Smith thing because I am not very much into Jonu Smith, but do you think with the drafting of Mac Jones that you're excited about the future of Jonu Smith coming in here? Can you speak a little bit on that? You've been a tight end whisperer as well as a fantasy whisperer for a few years now. And one of my favorite pastimes is to hit you up on one of your sleeper tight ends and then steal them from you that year. So if you could just speak a little bit more on Jonu Smith for Whisper Nation and also for me.
Yeah.
And while you're getting that pick there, we have Matt. This kind of ties into there. Tell me what you think about this trade. San Francisco PPR, Mac Jones, Amon, and Davis Mills for Deshaun Watson and Darnell Mooney. I'm the one who got Watson. Actually, that's too much to tag into what Travis just said, so we'll have to hold that. Excuse me for trying to buy Johnny some time.
I appreciate that. Okay, for Jonu Smith, the reason why I really like him going to New England and why I think that they are going to start to turn this into what we saw with Gronk and Aaron Andrews a few years ago.
Aaron Hernandez,
It's not Aaron Andrews. Aaron, yeah, that was not. Anyway, so I believe that's what they are trying to do. They are going to. There have been some beat reporters that have said like Jono could play a little bit in the slot as well. They went out and got guys that could create separation and are really good at contested catches, and that is what you're seeing from Jonu. And because their offense wasn't super sexy last year and Cam didn't do a whole lot, you saw, you're seeing that effect because Jonu Smith is going so deep in drafts. However, you have seen the talent of Jonu Smith. He was a number 1 overall tight end last year. And so I think because the targets are going to be there because they don't have a plethora of weapons, they did go out and add some weapons, but I don't think it's enough to take a huge chunk away from Jonu. I think he'll have a very nice role in this offense, and I think he'll have that Gronkish role for them. And I think we've seen Cam produce for a tight end. And then guess what? If Cam doesn't produce and you get Mac Jones in there, what do we say about rookies every single year? They love to go to the tight end. And so that's why I'm very excited and pretty confident that Jonu Smith will be a very serviceable tight end this year. I think he has the potential to be, maybe a top 7. I'm not saying that he'll be, like that number 1 overall tight end at all, but he could be a top 7, top 5-ish type of tight end.
Yeah.
I love the case you're laying here. I'm going to have to look a little bit more at it. I think, Hunter Henry scares me off a little bit because he's been so productive and having both of them.
Who becomes the alpha at the tight end? Is it Hunter or is it Jonu?
Yeah,
I think it's Jonu.
I don't know.
I think it's Jonu.
I don't know if you can say it's going to be Jonu. Like Jonu ended up ceding alpha work to Anthony Ferkser last year in that offense. So, I mean, I get it. I think Jonu's the better, probably all around prospect, more athletic for the move tight end position. But Henry's no slouch either, and he's been very productive in his career. But
that's going to be an interesting one to see how that shakes out. And I just like at least them going for it with the 2 tight end foundation for the offense. You know, they don't have any killer wide receivers.
Yeah, one key piece of like being able to have Aaron Hernandez and Gronk do what they did is just a guy named Tom Brady. You know? Just a little piece right there that was able to make that work.
We'll see what they got cooking over in New England. It's going to be a fun recipe to see what Belichick puts together. Even if it doesn't hit, it'll be fun to see.
I love how we say it's fun, but they're probably just going to load the line up and run the ball as much as they can next year.
Does that make is this going to be more of Belichick's, or should we be putting a little bit more stock potentially there into their 4th round selection, being Ramondre Stevenson, the Patriots, 231-pound back there?
When me and Johnny did the rookie landing spot show, which you guys can find on YouTube, so make sure you guys look back at that show. We've got all the rookie running back landing spots. Ramondre was a guy that we looked at the tape, and especially Johnny said, look, I looked at this tape, and I was like, this guy can actually get it done. And if you think back to LeGarrette Blount, not saying that's what Ramondre is going to do, get 16 touchdowns or 14 touchdowns or whatever, but that possibility is in there with them. The Patriots, since I've been born, basically have been top 5 in running back carries. Like they've been top 5 in like running the ball. So it's not something they're ever going to stop doing. And if you can nail the guy, that's the whole thing. But I think he's coming so cheap. Like get a cheap piece of this backfield and roll the dice.
The rest of the guys are still so cheap too. And the other guys he's competing with, Sony Michel and Damian Harris, have more draft pedigree than he does. 1st round selection in Sony Michel, 2nd or 3rd round selection in Damian Harris, and they're still on their rookie contracts. I know they're not good, but they are there.
No, you have to just, of course, this is like a depth piece. And I'm not saying that he's going to be a starter this year, but in a dynasty league, I think he's super interesting because of the size. He's a monster running back, as well as he's very good at catch ball out of the backfield. The other thing that is really interesting with him and why I think he fits into Bill Belichick's type of player is that he started off college or he went to a community college, and he was a 0-start recruit. And by the time he was out or coming out of junior college to go to the University of Oklahoma, he was, I believe, a 4 or 5-star recruit going into that. So you saw the jump, right? And then the fact that he went to Oklahoma, and we've seen so many Oklahoma running backs produce at the NFL level. When you can stack all of those things on top of each other, that's what make you say, okay, this is really, really interesting. Yeah, again, maybe not for this year, but moving forward, if Sony doesn't get re-signed, right? Because that's just like a 1 year thing.
They could cut Sony too. Like that's the other thing I was reading the other day. So like there's pathway to him to get the opportunity. It's just like, as Austin said, Bellatrix, are we going to be able to nail that? No, but you kind of take that risk when you take players where you're taking them with these guys.
I just like that upside pick there, the Stevenson pick there, so deep down. And just in the terms of who's got that upside, I think he's one of the few running backs that we saw deep down available who would still catch my eye and be like, huh, interesting.
We did it, boys? Man. That was a very, very awesome draft here. We got the chat room is bottom up, but Scott, so artist formerly known as Death by Rona. Now he said, you guys, if you don't pick him as the best team, that we've lost our mind.
Let's go ahead and figure it out then, how we're going to do this. Right? So correct me if I'm wrong here. What we'll do is Johnny, Travis, and I will take turns alternating. We'll pick we'll take who we thought between the guys that we evaluated individually, who did the best of the personnel that we took a look at, and then Whisper Nation let us know who between those 3 did the best for the show. Is that how we're doing it, Johnny?
Yeah. So I can. You want me? I'll start off since I have the third. So I'll do the first 3 guys, 4 guys. First 4.
3 flies.
Yeah, 3 flies here. So Death by Rona would be in my selection of teams that I could select here. Now running down, I'm just gonna quickly glance at this because excuse me here while I take a look at what team I would rather have. I will say Captain Bob, having Pat Mahomes and Matthew Stafford is a very solid quarterback group. I'm not sure if anyone else in my section has a better quarterback group than that. Looking at the running backs here, I'm gonna have to go CH, David Johnson, Cat's Pajamas. I've got some good drafters here, guys.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say my team that I'm gonna pick that has the best. I have to give it to Death by Rona. For artist formerly known by Death by Rona, I do have to give it to you for the best squad in my section here. You took Saquon, Devontae Adams, Travis Kelce, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Chris Godwin, Mark Andrews, Deshaun Watson, and Zach Wilson are your two quarterbacks with Jameis Winston late. Now, of course, if Deshaun Watson stuff doesn't settle and you don't have a quarterback, then you would not be my choice here. But there are a lot of things that are saying that Deshaun could settle and then get traded. So if he plays, then I think that your team is probably the best one out of this group. And then I would probably second that with Captain Bob as my second favorite team in my group, depending on the Deshaun Watson news. Am I allowed to say that, guys? Is that fair? Okay.
Yeah, you can have the caveat of Deshaun Watson. I think that's fair. Yeah. The big thing, I mean, I don't have any qualms with the way you broke it down there. So let me see. Who do I have here? Right? Did you? Yeah. You went the first four. So
I went with Captain Bob, the Cat's Pajamas, Drew K. Lou, and the Real Whisperer.
So I will get number one fan Jacob Bley, Travis Garden, Harry Geechee, and Whisper Nation champ Jay Blizzy. This is going to be a heavy grading here. All right, let's rock and roll here. We're going to start with Jacob Bley, number one fan. Let me see if Johnny can give me the highlight on Jacob. Oh, he's got it right there. Okay, Jacob Bley. Derrick Henry started us off, then Najee Harris, followed by Kittle, DJ Moore. Justin Fields here, early QB, but went with Justin Fields, the upside there. We know he's got the wheels. Devonta Smith, love that pick. Ryan Tannehill here to kind of the floor play with the Fields upside. Robert Woods, then Mostert and Melvin Gordon. Mac Jones. Followed by Mecole Hardman, Jarvis Landry, Hunter Henry, and Eskridge there in Seattle, kind of playing that David Moore upside. I don't have it. This is an okay team. It's not wowing me in any major way, but we'll kind of see how it stacks up. I don't have good feelings about this being the winner of the four, but we'll keep moving on here. Dak Prescott for Travis Garden in the first round. Then he got Calvin Ridley and Aaron Jones. We love that if Aaron Rodgers stays on the team. Then Kyle Pitts with the early tight end unicorn there. Javonte Williams, who should outlive Melvin Gordon in Denver and become the guy for them. You know, in the press conference, they said Javonte's a 3-down back. So it would give credence to maybe Melvin Gordon leaving the team as some people have speculated as early as this year. So Jerry Jeudy, then James Robinson. You know, Austin and I were talking about the value in James Robinson, maybe like kind of people sleeping on him now with ETN there. I think he's going to, you know, as Ryan pointed out, going to get some touchdown looks for sure. Curtis Samuel, then Ryan Fitzpatrick, a little stack there with the 8th and 9th. Jared Cook here in the 10th to pair with Kyle Pitts in case Pitts needs some more time. I understand that. Corey Davis, Jeff Wilson. I love the value in Jeff Wilson here just as a shot of that San Francisco backfield. Then Devin Singletary, Nelson Aguilar, probably getting slept on a little bit going to New England. We'll see how that plays out. And then Tariq Cohen. 2 years ago, top 30 back in PPR. So don't sleep on Tariq Cohen. I know Montgomery's getting a lot of the love, but this team's not bad. I would have liked to seen a little bit better of a second quarterback. Fitzpatrick, yes, he has his games, but he also has his ho-hum games that they swing the other way. And this team becomes way more complete with another more reliable quarterback. All right, Harry Geechee's next. He drafted Alvin Kamara in the first, then took Justin Herbert as his first quarterback, followed by J.K. Dobbins, and then Joe Burrow. Love this. 2 rookies last year were duking it out for Offensive Rookie of the Year, and now he's got them both on his squad. I think that's a huge, bright future for this guy with Harry Geechee. T. Higgins, Chase Claypool, Jalen Waddle. That's his trio of wide receivers there. Betting a lot on the Higgins being able to outshine Jamar Chase coming to town. And look, Jamar Chase is coming in. That's true. But AJ Green is leaving 100 targets. If he absorbs all those, T. Higgins still can eat. So I think that's okay. Claypool, we talked about. I love the upside there of just a huge prospect. And then Jalen Waddle. A lot of people calling Waddle Tyreek Hill. I don't know if we're going to crown him that early, but I like Waddle's game, and he should usurp Will Fuller eventually, if not by contract status. Noah Fant, then Ronald Jones, followed by A.J. Dillon, Michael Gallup, Sam Darnold, Terrace Marshall, which I think is a huge value here in the 13th over in Carolina, especially with that mini stack with Sam Darnold in a bye week or something. You could be sitting there with like maybe a week winner if that happens. Cole Kmet, and then Paris Campbell. So kind of really like the start of your draft. I think at the Noah Fant, I did like the Ronald Jones pick, especially with Leonard Fournette only on another 1-year deal. This is a decent team. Jay Blizzy is up next, my final candidate here for grading. Jonathan Taylor was his first running back, then Cam Akers. I love those two running backs to start us off. Michael Thomas, then Jamar Chase, Aaron Rodgers, Deontay Johnson, and Cooper Kupp. So really getting the volume in here with the wide receivers. I like that. Aaron Rodgers, and then Kirk Cousins in the 8th. Kirk Cousins been a borderline QB1 basically his whole career, and I think that's a fine. Him and Derek Carr are basically kind of the same guy, and as your second quarterback, I love that. He got Derek Carr there. Rashad Bateman, then Elijah Moore, Naheem Hines, Robert Tonyan, Antonio Brown, and Jamal Williams. There's some value here in Antonio Brown. Obviously, he's still kind of always a knack for trouble. One of the comments at Jay Blizzy was that he hated tight ends, but I didn't mind the Tonyan pick, especially if we're banking on Aaron Rodgers still there. You just like only have the one guy, so maybe he streams the other tight end for bye weeks or whatever. But I love what he built here. I mean, the two running backs, then followed by Michael Thomas, and then the upside of Jamar Chase, coupled with his third wide receiver being a combo of probably Deontay Johnson and Cooper Kupp, at least for this year, and maybe next year that's going to be good, and then you can get in on stuff in the coming drafts, rookie drafts. I just like his. Oh man, this one's tough for me. I like his wide receivers better than I like Harry Geechie's, but I love his running backs too, I think even more. And the quarterbacks I would give to Harry Geechie, but if Aaron Rodgers is still in Green Bay, give me Jay Blizzy. That's the caveat. If Johnny can take a Deshaun Watson caveat, I'm taking the Aaron Rodgers caveat, and I'm going to give it to Jay Blizzy here. I
think that's fine. We're allowed caveats on this show.
This is a caveat show.
Caveats on the menu.
Well, we're just with Austin, without Austin and quick adding and subtracting and multiplying and dividing. We only left Austin with 2 teams to discuss, so we apologize, Austin.
I'm excited about these two.
Honestly, that's easier. Austin gets off the hook. It's easier to grade between 2. It's hard to pick between 4.
And looking here at Easy Daddy's number 1 selection, Josh Allen. I think you're excited about getting Josh Allen in the first round, but as the 4th quarterback selected, all of a sudden becomes a value pick on that. So Josh Allen and A.J. Brown, who Travis and I mentioned as we think is our number 1 wide receiver coming into the season. A.J. Brown, that is. Austin Eckler is going to be his lead running back down in the 3rd. Darren Waller at tight end in the 4th. Keenan Allen there in the 5th to pair along with A.J. Brown. Really like that combo. Then Josh Jacobs and Mike Davis as his 2nd and 3rd running backs. Is pretty good, especially as late as he got him. Julio Jones there in the 8th. Nice. Carson Wentz is going to be his 2nd quarterback. That could be sneaky good, but will probably be disappointing. But it's an exciting storyline to continue to watch, and I definitely hope the most for Carson Wentz and the Indianapolis Colts. Laviska Shenault and Rondale Moore there in the 10th and 11th rounds. Really like the Shenault pickup. Tight end Troutman there, rookie here for New Orleans. Palmer there, rookie wide receiver in the 13th. We got Trask, the incoming quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who Arian, their coach, Bruce Arians, has said positive things about as of late, and closes out his draft with Elijah Mitchell. I don't think you present a ton of holes here, and I think any of the pieces that aren't so exciting, such as the Mitchell or Trask or Palmer, Rondale Moore picks there, really kind of 11th round down, are rookie incoming dart throws, players that are going to hold value at least for 2 seasons. They could surprise you. You could deal them. I got nothing negative to say in a dynasty startup of taking this caliber of rookies where you did. And I like a lot of the dart throws with the elevated ceilings in there, the Chenault, the Keenan Allen, the Antonio or AJ Brown. It's a good team. It's a good team. I'm not in love with this squad, but I think you got some good picks and capitalized on them, such as the Josh Jacobs one there really late. The Chenault one there I think is pretty late. It's a good team. I think it's a well-drafted team. And I think you'd be enjoying this one for some years to come. You need a couple of things to work out, but welcome to fantasy football. Moving here over to Don Flick. Donnie here in the 11th spot takes Nick Chubb there. Fantastic pickup. You love to anchor your running back squad to Nick Chubb. DK Metcalf there in the second. Great pick up at the wide receiver position. Literally, it's probably AJ Brown and then DK Metcalf for me in terms of desirable wide receivers from a dynasty startup perspective. Joe Mixon and Travis Etienne, young. Both of them are young. Joe Mixon should get crazy volume. You're hearing them already say in Cincinnati that Joe Mixon should be coming off the field. Pair that along with Nick Chubb. You got to win now, win down the road situation. And Travis Etienne is just fun no matter what, even if he ends up being more of a football piece and not so much of a fantasy piece. It's still an exciting pickup to have at this point. And Mike Evans there is your second wide receiver. Love that. It's crazy, only 27 years old and never had under 1,000 yards. Baker Mayfield is your number one quarterback. I think he takes a jump up this year for a lot of different reasons. And you didn't pick him up until the 6th. So that's a little bit of a contrast. You were the latest manager here to draft a quarterback, and I don't think it hurt you so far. And you got Daniel Jones down there in the 10th to pair along with it. Not great, but it flexes out your team in other ways. TJ Hawkinson there in the 7th. Love that pick. And then with the Irv Smith tight end combo there in the 9th, get Odell Beckham in between them. We mentioned Daniel Jones there. Marquise Brown as your 4th wide receiver. He's disappointed us up until now, but there's a lot of reasons to think he's going to improve moving forward. And you get him late. The upside is undeniable, and the risk is definitely built in when you got him as late as you did. We had mentioned about Ramondre Stevenson. It's a Patriots running back. There is other running backs on the roster, but it's an organization that can produce for you, whether that's with LeGarrette Blount or Stephen Ridley. Going back in the day, Belichick can still produce fantasy-relevant running backs, and you might have just gotten the most relevant one in the years to come. We know that Kadarius Toney's got a lot of hype attached to his name. We'll see. There's all of a sudden a ton of wide receivers and weapons in New York. But the best will rise to the top, and it really could be him. McKissick and Penny there at the end. Definitely like the McKissick pickup. He was interesting in PPR formats, finishing as the number 17 RB in PPR formats. 36 in standard, though, so it does point to how much attention he got through the pass game. That could switch with Ryan Fitzpatrick. It also might not. So I love that pickup super late. Good draft between Easy Daddy and Don Flick. I got to crown Don Flick. I think they're just played really well of allowing the pieces to fall to him and didn't create a huge hole on his team at the quarterback spot despite waiting until the 6th round. And my goodness, with a DK Metcalf and an Odell Beckham and a Mike Evans, then a Nick Chubb and a Joe Mixon and a Travis Etienne, there's just some fire for here today and down the road. It's Don Flick today.
Yeah, I think I grade it the same way. They're awesome between those two. Whisper Nation, let us know who you think. Johnny, who was your winner of your?
Well, I had the real Whisperer as mine, but I will say, like, people have been popping off saying about giving the Cat's pajamas. He was asking about his team, how he liked it. I think I do like his team as well. I think he did a good one, but I'm ultimately going to go with the real Whisperer.
Let Whisper Nation, let us know who you think won. You guys are in the comments there. Let us know who you think. That's what our opinion, but it's just our opinion, you know.
It's your opinion.
I did want to give before we close out the show. Ryan, it's like the lifestyle of the rich and famous. Caveat dreams and the fantasy whispers. I'll see myself out. We appreciate you, Ryan. And like I said, we will be doing a mock draft with them on Wednesday on their channel. So that will be fun. So tune in to that.
I'm going to check it out.
Yeah. And then also we are going live on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern time. And then this Friday, it is be a hour late than normal. We will be going at p.m. Eastern for.
Here's what you got to do. You got to subscribe to the YouTube channel and turn the notifications on, and then you'll just know exactly when we're going live, because then it'll just tell you right there.
Yeah, that's the easier
You don't have
thing
to rely on Johnny's teleportation skills here as he travels between different timelines.
And I will say, Joe Zolo from Club Fantasy FFL, he will be on Friday's show. We're going to start our series of breaking down the divisional teams, and that should be a lot of fun.
Guys, I'm excited for all of this. This was another great mock draft. Make sure you like and subscribe so you can catch all of the live links coming your way. If you didn't get a chance to draft alongside us this week, you will next week. And you can go ahead and catch all of the updates in the Discord channel. So I know we got a couple people in the chat who joined along with us there. Make sure the rest of y'all do as well. Johnny, Travis, any final thoughts?
Nope. Get on that Discord chat, as Austin said. Click that link in there. We'll see you next time.
I'm Austin Sear. That's Big Travie. There's Johnny Game Time Hicks. We're the Fantasy Whisperers. We're out.
Peace. Appreciate you guys.
Right here.
Oh, hey, you made it to the end of the video. If you like what you saw, go ahead and hit subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell so you get notified anytime we drop new content or go live. And if you're still not sold yet, check out one of these videos.